Good evening and welcome, commanders, guests and fellow travellers across space to a very special Elite Dangerous Lore tour. We haven't done one of these for almost 2 years, but it's my privilege tonight to lead a special tour visiting particular places in Elite Dangerous where great significance is to be found due to the contributions of a very famous person to the Elite Dangerous community, Michael Brookes. For many of you, he'll need no introduction. For those players who have joined the game more recently, Michael Brookes was effectively the man who created the lore, the background, the story of the game when it was first created back in 2012. And we are going to be tonight paying our respects to him in the way that that we can as an international community. I've seen people from New Zealand, the United States, Australia already in the chat. If you're from any other countries, please drop those into the chat. It's always good to see where people are tuning in from. Obviously, I'm here in the UK. I know many of you are as well, with Elite originally being a British game. But obviously everybody is welcome as well. We are also privileged to have some of Michael's family listening into the stream as well. So thank you very much for dropping in and listening to what we're broadcasting tonight. We're going to be about 2 hours or so of the tour. And we are going to be flying through the game with a community of pilots and space commanders from all across the world to celebrate what Michael Brookes did for us inside Elite Dangerous. That's the aim of this evening, is to celebrate the great works that he did. That millions of people, literally, and I'm not using the word millions there for hyperbole. I mean millions. There are literally millions of players of this game historically over the years, so that's good. So I can see loads and loads of locations coming in, so let me just pull some of them out. Sweden, Denmark, Ireland, Lithuania, Greece, Austria, Sweden again, Romania, Wales, the Netherlands, Ireland, Nottinghamshire, Saigon in Vietnam, West Yorkshire, France, Western Australia in Perth, Norway, Madrid in Spain, County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland, and all sorts of places. So Liverpool, Bedford, Swindon, top place, Dublin in Ireland as well, Le Mans in France, Finland, Poland, Northern Ireland, it's just everywhere. The entire world is here, which is fantastic. So welcome one and welcome all, and especially welcome to Michael's family as well. Now, just before I start anything else, I just want to assure people that tonight is all about Michael Brookes. Okay, I know that there has in the past been controversy about the Elite Dangerous game and front-edged with it and whether they should have done different things. None of that tonight, please. Okay, none of that tonight. We are here only to celebrate Michael Brookes' contributions. Elite Dangerous is the background to that. That's the tool that we're going to use to explore what he did for us, and that is the focus of this evening. And apologies for the space gulls. Yes, it's quite a warm evening here. I have the window open, so if you hear some space gulls, that will be why. First off, now I'm not a spokesman for the Elite Dangerous community, but I have been involved in Elite Dangerous from pretty much the get-go, to be honest. So what I wanted to do for the benefit of Michael's family is just to read a short little piece to explain why Michael Brookes was so important to us as the Elite Dangerous community. So I'm not a spokesperson, but I wanted to kind of put into words what he meant and why he's so important. And bits of the talk will expand upon that. But just to kind of start off, if you like, I'd like to just say this. First of all, obviously, we would like to express our sympathies to you and your family at this time. I don't think there's anything more we can add to that, but you know, it's obviously a shock, and we want to do what we can to remember Michael as best we can. Without overstating it, Michael was the heart and soul of Elite Dangerous between 2012 and about 2017. Elite Dangerous is based on 3 previous games that dated back to the original Elite, which came out in the year 1984. Many of the players from back then, myself included, as I was a teenager in 1984, are still playing today. And when Elite Dangerous was created in 2012, Michael was the man who coordinated all the efforts to bring all of the stories, all of the lore, all of the details and the history of all the games over that sort of 40-year period, to bring it together to form the basis of the new game. And that was a vast undertaking, literally millions of lines of documents and stories and all sorts of things. So Michael was the force that put the background into the game. He put together the original star map, and we'll find out a little bit more about that later on. He created many of the mysteries that players have investigated over the years. Again, we'll dive into those. He also wrote the first official novel for the game, Elite Legacy. I've got my own copy right here, which we'll delve into a little bit later as well. And that wasn't even his day job, really. His day job was to produce the video game Elite Dangerous. So alongside all this extra activity, he was coordinating and assisting a group of writers who were putting together other books. So I wrote a book for Elite Dangerous, as you all know, but Michael was the man who enabled me to write it. He did all the background information that I needed to create the book. So when the game was released, he was the authority. He basically said, yes, that's in, or no, that's not. He was in charge. He loved all the background information and became the curator of it. If he said it, it was. And the community of players came to love him because he engaged with the community. He fielded the questions, sometimes online, sometimes on Twitch, like we are tonight, sometimes on YouTube. And he answered them where he could, sometimes in a very cryptic fashion. which was occasionally reduced to just a wink. Or maybe a nod. He never gave secrets away. I mean, I famously remember people in LaveCon trying desperately to get him drunk. And I think they did, in fact, get him drunk, but he still never revealed any secrets. He knew what he was doing. He was the key figure from Frontier who appeared at all the fan conventions right from the start. So, he was at the first convention, LaveCon, in 2013. I think I'm right in saying, before the game even came out. He was the man who came along as the official person. So he was on the panels, he was in the breakout rooms, and in the bar. The bar will be a frequent a frequent memory for many, always until the bitter end. And hundreds of fans met him in person and enjoyed his company. And his work through this game, literally, and I mean that very specifically, literally, has touched the lives of millions of players across the world. You've seen some of the countries represented tonight. Creating communities of players who are still in touch today. So many friendships, many relationships even, and many changed lives have through the game have occurred because of what Michael Brookes put into that game. So the tour is going to touch on some of those key things, visit the places in the game that he effectively created, and just in an effort to ensure that his Elite Dangerous legacy is honoured. So that's our intention tonight, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat here because I know that Michael's family have put up a Just Giving page. So this link here that I'm just about to dump in, they are picking up donations for two charities, Special Effect So apologies, the sound doesn't work when I've got that link up. That's my bad. So that link takes you to Special Effect and the German Shepherd Dog Welfare Fund. Donations are being split between those two. So if you would like to make a contribution in memory of Michael, that's the ideal route, please, Commanders. So thank you very much. Special Effect is well known. They provide services to gamers who are disabled or otherwise unable to play computer games in a traditional fashion. So they make custom controllers and all sorts of clever stuff. They are very, very, very impressive guys. Most Elite Dangerous Commanders may have heard of them. German Shepherd Dog, something that was very close to Michael Brookes' heart. He had a German Shepherd and was more recently heavily involved in that charity as well. So if you'd like to show your respect to Michael in that fashion, then please follow that Just Giving link. I'll drop that in the chat every so often. Now, just a word about Elite. As you can see from this particular slide here, in the top left there, apologies the audio will cut out here, is the original Elite from 1984. Top right is Frontier Elite 2, which is from, I'm getting this right, 1993, I think. So it gives you an idea of the legacy of how long Elite's been around. And bottom left there is Frontier First Encounters, which is 1995. And then there's a big gap, of course. There's a big gap between 1995 and 2012, when Elite Dangerous finally came back. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that I've used the Cobra Mark III in all three pictures, just to give you a view of how things have changed over the time. But it's an amazing story. Elite itself is an amazing story, of course, going back to 1984, and Michael was instrumental in bringing it back to life in 2012. Now, for those of you who want to follow along, we know there's issues with instancing in Elite. We may not all see each other all of the time. I'm just going to put up the route that we're going to be following. So we're going to start at Eulexia, and then we're going to move to the Tir-Nisla system. So with no further ado, I'm going to jump into the game, and we'll see how many other commanders are around, and we'll fly on from there. Okay, so here we are. I have to admit, I did spend a little bit of time over the last couple of weeks trying to remember how to fly a spaceship in Elite Dangerous, as I haven't done so for quite a while. For those who aren't familiar with Elite, and I'm thinking of Michael's family here if you are watching to this, Elite is a game that allows players to fly spaceships, essentially. And the entire galaxy is available for exploration and trade, and unfortunately sometimes also fighting and combat and blowing things up, but it is a computer game. For reference, what we have on the screen is a space station. This is the space station actually effectively belonged to me. It's Mad J. Wagar space station. Michael Brookes put that in the game for me, so I'm very, very grateful that that space station exists. In front of you on the screen, you can probably see a number of other ships. In fact, on the scanner down at the bottom of the screen, every hollow indicator, they're little squares on sticks, basically, is a player. And so we'll have players from all across the world appearing on the screen here, and you'll see some of them. And that's the game warning us that somebody has just clumped into my shields. There's obviously quite a few players around here as well, which is good. So every ship you can see on the screen there pretty much is another player somewhere in the world who's connected to Elite Dangerous to join us this evening. So we can see a variety of ships there: anacondas, cobras, crates, and all sorts of bits and pieces, all here to pay their respects to Michael. So that's fantastic. I'm just going to take a look outside my ship. This is my ship. Let's just hide that. And we can see already quite a few ships have joined us here. They were going to be joining us on the tour. Now, to give you an idea of what Michael Brookes has done for this, so everything you can see in the background here is obviously space, and space is, as we know, huge and vast. We can see here the glorious arc of the Milky Way galaxy. And the beauty of Elite Dangerous, and one of the things that Michael put in for us, is that every single star out there that you can see isn't just pretty eye candy. It's a place that you can go to visit. And in Elite Dangerous, if you have the right ship and you have enough patience, you can fly to any star you can see in the background there, and go and explore and find out what's there. The creation of the star map itself, and to give you an idea of the scale of what Michael created, let me just activate. Let's get back here to this mouse. There we go. The actual galaxy map. So this is what Michael created. So we are here essentially at this point in time. And as I zoom out, every star that you can see, particularly the ones with real names, Michael typed those in. I saw him do it. He typed them into an Excel spreadsheet. All the nearby stars were meticulously put in by hand, based off real data from astronomers. And then the rest of the galaxy was created and managed by Michael, along with some very, very smart astrophysicists who kind of helped program it. But essentially, Michael created this entire, pretty much realistic galaxy. And as you can see, it literally is vast. That is, that is the state of the galaxy. It is a realistic one-to-one simulation of the Milky Way. There are 400 billion stars out there, and Michael was instrumental in creating it. As Andy Pipkin says, there's about 100,000 were done by hand, and the vast majority of those Michael hand coded himself. There's actually the star map itself is something that I needed desperately when I was writing my book, and I was badgering Michael for several months to say, when's the star map going to be finished, Michael? And that's when the phrase soon appeared. So many of the Elite Dangerous commanders remember the word soon. I'm wondering what was the origin of the word soon. At least one of the origins of the word soon is me badgering Michael Brookes for the star map. And I can tell you exactly how long a soon is, because the first time I asked him the question, where's the star map? He said, it'll be soon. The actual length of Michael Brookes' soon is 4 months, 3 days, 2 hours and 16 minutes. So when anybody at Frontier says it's going to be soon, it's going to be at least 4 months, okay? That's an official stake in the ground. So Michael was instrumental in creating this vast galaxy for us to play our ships in. So that's an amazing thing that he did for us. Now we are going to go and undertake a hyperspace jump. So commanders, again, let me just put up the route. We're going to jump to the Tianisla system and get our tour underway. In my ship, that's going to be 3 jumps, so we'll get moving. For the rest of you, depending on how good your ship is, I'll see you there. Everybody head to Tianisla. I'm going to be very cautiously moving away from all the other players because I don't want to damage anybody's ship. I can already see a few of them flying off. We'll all be taking slightly different routes because different ships jump at different speeds and different rates. We just need to get a little bit of distance from the space station.
Frameshift drive charging.
Off we go. Yes, try to fly safely, commanders. I see a few other ships
Clear off the station perimeter. Starcon out.
flashing into hyperspace as we jump. Game audio is quite loud. Let me adjust that.
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
And off into hyperspace we go. It's very pretty. I like hyperspace. Of course.
Mission critical message.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Fuel scooping.
Let's try not to hit the star on my first jump.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
There we go. I'm flying in what my ship is an Imperial cutter. It's actually quite a large ship
Charging.
by Elite Dangerous standards, so it's not particularly manoeuvrable. It's a little bit like Douglas Adams' description, which it looks like a fish, it moves like a fish, but it steers like a cow.
Incoming mission critical message.
I have no idea what the mission critical message is, but I'm going to ignore that.
Fuel scooping.
Thankfully, it doesn't hang in the air exactly the same way that Brookes don't. No, that's indeed. That's very true. Right.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Why have I jumped out? I'm not in the TNSLA system yet, am I? What happened there? You can tell I haven't played this game for a while. I've clicked on the wrong link. That's why. Why have I gone? Oh, it didn't do the final jump for some reason. That was probably pilot error there. Either I cancelled something or... There we go. 2T and Isla. I don't think it's mission critical. No, hopefully not. The game is probably trying to give us some content. But there we go. It happened to be as well. That's weird. So maybe T and Isla's doing something weird. I'm not quite sure what that would be about. Ghost in the machine, perhaps. Yeah. Hopefully the Thargoids will leave us alone. I have sent a message to Thargoid Central Command saying, please, please avoid. Right. Again, you can see there's a whole bunch of commanders here, which is excellent. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of fuel while we're here. And then we'll head to a point in Tian Isla. Don't want to rattle my ship.
Warning. Temperature.
Jump route clear. That's it. A few people had the same problem. Right, let's get away from the star. I don't want to cook my nice spaceship. Right, we're going to head to... where is it? The orbital graveyard. Well, this is actually not the orbital graveyard, but we're going to head for this Taurus beacon here, Curious Transmission Partially Decoded. So if you can see that, lock that into your flight computers and we're going to fly there now that we've arrived in the TNSLA system. Oh, it's a bug, is it? Losing your hyperspace target. Okay. Okay, so just bear that in mind that it didn't jump to the right place. So head to Curious Transmission Partially Decoded. Ghosts in the Machine. There we are. TNSLA, my home system. Now, TNSLA is, of course, steeped in the original lore that jumps back to 1984. And don't forget, this liner is in the top 1% of all liners. I can't believe that message is still in the game. So yes, this is lore from way back in 1984 that Michael Brookes very kindly incorporated into Elite Dangerous. There's a cruise ship flying around as well. So these, we're going to visit a few of these this evening, I imagine. This is a tourist beacon. And tourist beacons are Elite Dangerous's way of teaching you little snippets of lore. Again, something Michael Brookes had a hand in creating and putting into the game. They're basically little transmission nodes where you can pick up a bit of text. Occasionally you can pick up audio logs as well, which tell you little things about the game as well. So we're just going to drop out of Super Cruise in a moment. Drew's desperately trying not to do a loop of shame, which shows that my piloting skills will be a bit rusty. The rule of 6, yes, I keep forgetting the rule of 6. I'm at 7, aren't I? So I'm not quite right there. There we go. Rule of 6. Press disengage. Here we go. Right, and then a whole bunch of ships are arriving, as you can see. Right, I'm just going to scan that. There we go. Scanning the tourist beacon. that's good. There we go. And we have the data. So if I go and show you that. So this is tourist spot 0676. In early August 3302, an antique Cobra Mark III was interred at the Tianizla Orbital Graveyard. And you can read the rest of these texts at your leisure. Now, if I show you the galaxy map here, this area of space is particularly important. It contains a series of worlds which, on the face of it, don't look particularly remarkable. You'll see names like Lave, Riot, Uzar, Arere, Dizo, Listi, Arev, Ridquat, Tianizla, and Zeons. Now, what's significant about these places in the game is that they were present in the 1984 version of Elite. So way back in 1984, when the first game came out, on those primitive, terrible little computers, the 8-bit computers, the BBC Micro, the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, way back in the ancient mists of computing time, when Elite first came out back then, these were the systems that existed in the game. In fact, the game started here in the Lave system, which is again a very, very famous place in Elite Dangerous. Now, Tianizla is in some ways more important to the lore than Lave. Whilst you, the pilot, started at Lave, the actual kind of story of Elite almost starts in Tianizla itself. So this is, if you like, the place in Elite Dangerous where the lore starts, and this is something that Michael Brookes put into Elite Dangerous for us. If you've come across the original Elite, you may have known it came with a book. One of the reasons that Michael was very keen to write a book, and many of the rest of us were as well, is that the original Elite came with a book. So it only seemed right that Elite Dangerous came with books as well. But the original Elite came with a book called The Dark Wheel, and we'll hear a little bit more about the Dark Wheel as we go on. And in that book, it's a fairly, by modern standards, a fairly obvious story. There's a young guy who suffers a tragic loss, he meets a girl, and they go off and have space adventures, and they kill the bad guys, and eventually shoot down a space pirate. It's fairly obvious, but it's a good story. That's the way that Elite Dangerous starts, and it started here in the Tianizla system. There's supposed to be at this particular location in space. There's supposed to be a graveyard of spacecraft, we're sort of doing our best to recreate that, as you can see right now, with a whole bunch of stationary spaceships just hanging around. The Tianizla Orbital Graveyard is where the hero and the heroine get their first ship, a Cobra Mark III, of course, and go off on their first series of adventures. And it introduces the Dark Wheel, it introduces Raxxla, which is a huge mystery inside the Elite universe, it's where the lore and the story of Elite Dangerous actually has its kind of heart and soul. Now, alas, the Tianizla Orbital Graveyard itself doesn't exist in the game, which is a bit of a shame. Michael was trying to put it into the game. I think priorities changed somewhere along the way. Unfortunately, that never came to fruition. But in some small way here, we can kind of create a bit of an informal starship graveyard by kind of leaving all our ships hanging around in here. So this is where the story of Elite starts, and Michael ensured, he was very, very keen on this, that the story of Elite Dangerous continued the mystery and the lore of the original Elite and the subsequent games as well. So by including Tianizla, Lave, and all those other locations from the original game back in 1984, he's brought in the lore and ensured that the story has a good start in Elite Dangerous. So Tianizla is hugely significant from that perspective, and it's lovely that the world exists here inside the game. So the significance of Tianizla is just, it's where the story starts, Michael ensured it was there for all of the original players who are now old like me. It was a great nod to all the original players of the game to say, yes, get that Elite was a big important thing back then, and I want to keep all that lore and story in the game again. Right, we must continue on the pace. Right, we are off here next. So for those of you who have the permit, we're going to Shinatra Desra. For those of you who don't have the Shinatra Desra permit, i.e. you're not elite yet, I've put in an alternative location, as you can see there, the Bunda system, B-U-N-D-A system. If you have the permit, Shinatra Desra. If you don't have the permit, the Bunda system, and then we'll continue the tour at that point. So let's hope that the galaxy map works this time. It's taken me a while to learn this new interface. It's like everything's in a different place. So here we go. Right. That definitely says Shinatra Desra. That's good. Okay. So right, ships are jumping out. Let's gently accelerate out of here. Charge the hyperspace drive and make our way across. Shinatra Desra. So now Shinatra Desra is basically called the Founder's World. Now that was a fast ship. So it's the world where the Pilots Federation lives. Now the Pilot Federation is actually a rather curious organisation in the lore of Elite Dangerous. I really ought to find out what that is at some point. It's basically the organisation that approves and manages all the pilots in the Elite Dangerous universe. So each one of us as players is members of the Pilots Federation, and they have their headquarters here in Shinatra Desra. It's also called the Founder's World. And you can't get into the Shinatra Desra system until you're elite in something, which means that you've had to prove yourself worthy of either making a lot of money, or B, killing a lot of other spaceships, or doing a lot of exploration, which is the honourable way of getting there. Obviously, I think that's the way I did it. So I'm elite in explorer only. I've done a fair bit of shooting and other bits and pieces, but exploration was my bag. They have you can't get into this until you've earned your wings, basically, and then there's a few perks once you get through. Some people may have had it from the Kickstarter, that's quite right, and but the Founder's World again is something that Michael put in the game. It was the naming of the place was a Kickstarter reward. So back in 2012, the Elite Dangerous was being kickstarted, so people were putting money in to create the game before it came along. And one of the biggest rewards was to name this Founder's system. And I think you got to have dinner with the devs as well, from memory as well. So that's one of the things that you could bid for. I think it costs several £1,000s. So it's very, very expensive. That's basically about the system. Now there are lots of places we could go here. I'm actually going to go to Jameson Memorial. So let's go there. And we'll drop out by the space station there. So the Kickstarter was a way of creating the game. It's actually where I first came across Michael. For those of you who don't know, Elite Dangerous wasn't one of those games that just suddenly came along and was released. Frontier sort of, I suppose, tested the market by basically saying, look, let's put a Kickstarter together. And I think it was a 1.25 or 1.5 million pounds. It was quite big. I think it was the biggest Kickstarter, or maybe one of the biggest Kickstarters of the time. And basically they basically said, if we raise 1.25 billion or whatever it was in 2 months, then we will make the game. If we don't raise that money in that time, then we won't raise the game. And in the process of that Kickstarter, that's where Michael Brookes first appeared to all of us. He created fiction diaries, he created lore diaries, he created information for us to kind of consume, because there was no game to actually look at. we eventually did get a video as well, he created interest in the Kickstarter. So you can also thank Michael that the Kickstarter was successful. He was instrumental in making it a successful thing, and that was back in 2012. So Elite Dangerous did achieve its Kickstarter and therefore got made. Partly, I think, thanks to those fiction diaries, because some of the early stuff that came out in the Kickstarter was a little bit dull and a little bit technical. Whereas the fiction diaries, of course, weren't. They were much more interesting. There was detail about the background story of the galaxy and all the things that were coming. So there's a lot of good stuff that came out in those fiction diaries, and they're still available on YouTube if you want to go and watch them. Shinatra Desra, alas, if you fly into here in open mode, you're almost certainly signing your death warrant, because it can be a very dangerous system. So I'm flying here, as you know, in my private group, which you're all welcome to join. Just take it easy, because there's an awful lot of players with expensive murder boats, I think they're called, in this system, if you play in open mode. So here we are at Jameson Mill. I'm just going to hang off I don't know whether on the starboard bow, but let's call it the starboard bow. There's no starboard really in space, because that's where we are. There we go. A few ships. There's a lovely Cobra Mark III flying past as well. That's really nice to see. So here we are at Jameson Memorial. Now, Jameson is also a very important person in the Elite Dangerous lore, and this is another of Michael's little touches that was put into the game. Is that Jameson is the name of the character you play in 1984 Elite, and also you play his grandson in the second Elite, Frontier Elite 2. So Commander Jameson is a famous pilot, if you like, in the Elite Dangerous universe. Now, he's long since gone in the universe of Elite Dangerous, because this is several hundred years later than the original games, and for a long time his fate was unknown. But for those of you who are in the know, and a quick Google search will now tell you where it is, if you want to go and look up, you can go and visit Commander Jameson's grave, where his spaceship crashed on the surface of a moon, and it's an excellent story associated with the wreck site of Commander Jameson, because there's lots of skullduggery going on, and all sorts of bits and pieces in there. So check out the last final resting place of Commander Jameson. It's another little nod to the original games, which is a lovely little touch that Michael was definitely instrumental in bringing in. So that's really, really good. We have also heard mention of the Dark Wheel. Now, the Dark Wheel are a mysterious organisation that is sort of behind the scenes in Elite Dangerous and Elite throughout. They're a mysterious organisation whose motivations aren't entirely clear. They do all sorts of weird and wonderful mysterious things. They search for mysteries, and they protect things, and they throw people off the trail, and they're a very secretive organisation whose agenda is unclear. We don't really know what they're up to. One of the things that they're very much involved in is the legend of Raxler, which again we don't know a great deal about, even after all this time. It's been 40 years. Shouldn't we know a little bit more about it? But one of these days, maybe we'll find out a little bit more about Raxler. But if you the Dark Wheel does exist as a faction in this particular station. So if you go into this station, you'll find that the Dark Wheel is a faction that you can actually do business with. Now, years and years and years ago, when Elite Dangerous first came out, I know Michael Brookes put in some very specific Dark Wheel missions that were all a bit mysterious and did sort of things. Those missions seem to have disappeared nowadays, but and I don't know, unfortunately, whether they led to anything concrete. But certainly at the beginning, Michael had put in these mysterious Dark Wheel missions, and as a result of that, the mysteries started to come out. Michael loved a mystery. Okay, he really, 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 really liked a mystery, and virtually, I think, certainly all the early mysteries. So, the Dark Wheel, the generation ships that appeared in the game, and you know, the generation ships are a particularly interesting one because these are these vast ships that have been travelling throughout space for hundreds and hundreds of years. And Michael was a huge fan of dark and dystopic fiction. Okay, so I think that's come across. If you go to all the generation ships in Elite Dangerous, I would say at least 90%, possibly even more, have some really rather dark tale associated with them, where the occupants of the spaceships have either come to a sticky end of some sort or another, based on Michael's predilection for everything going really, really badly wrong. So they've either all frozen to death or starved to death, or they've become religious nutters, or some things. Some of the generation ships were rather depressing. So there's some quite dark tales, but Michael definitely liked the dark tales. So I think that's definitely some of his storytelling. I think there was only one generation ship that survived. Everybody else came a cropper. So that suggests a bit of Brookesian flavour to the Elite Dangerous universe. Which is really, really good. Also, many of you will remember the unknown probes. So long before the Thargoids actually showed up in Elite Dangerous, commanders encountered these weird probes floating around in the depths of space. And for a long time, these probes sort of defied any explanation. And Michael wasn't going to make it easy for anybody in the community to figure out what the heck was going on. Of course, that wasn't his way. He wasn't going to give us any clues. But after a few weeks of fruitless trying to figure out what the heck these probes were, he basically I can't remember whether it was at a convention or whether it was online, but he basically he said and almost in a rather J.K. Rowling kind of a way with the Harry Potter book. Have you tried listening to them? And that was the clue he gave. And then basically, if you approached your spaceship very, very close to the probes, you could hear this weird sound. And it turned out that the weird sound had data embedded in it. I mean, you had to be like an audio engineer to figure it out, and use a spectrum analyzer. And inside the sound was this map of stuff, and it was like, this is freakily difficult to work out. I mean, the vast majority of us were like, yeah, I'd never have got that. But a few people were like, wow, we've discovered a map inside the sound effect of the game that leads to something. And it's like, wow, okay, we'll let the scientific people do the work and the rest of us will just tag along for the ride. But there were mysteries inside mysteries inside mystery. That was the Michael Brookes way. He would put things inside other things and say you weren't ever sure whether you got to the end of the mystery or not. It's like, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Is this connected to that? And you'd start questioning your sanity after a while. But that was a Michael Brookes technique to keep everything. Those were good times in the game when we'd have all those kind of mysteries. And we were trying to decode what it all meant, and then you get new bits and pieces of all those kind of things. So so all that sort of stuff. The Thargoids and the Guardians. Again, Brooksian contributions to Elite. So anyway, so we must move on. Time is always ticking, so we must keep moving. We are heading to, for those of you who can, we are heading to Sol. For those of you who can't go to Sol, you need to head to Alpha Centauri. So Sol, of course, is here. We're in the Sol system right now. Unfortunately, because we don't have any hyperspace capable ships in the real world, we have to travel to Sol in imaginary spaceships. But hey, again, the ability to explore the galaxy is again something that Michael gave us the ability to do by creating the universe that we can play in. There we go, off to Sol. Just before I go, again, encouragement for those of you who are here. We are encouraging people to donate to a Just Giving Fund in memory of Michael. I'm putting the link in the chat right now. If you'd like to show your appreciation to Michael, or for Michael, shall I say, as part of that, Michael's family has set this link up. And we're encouraging donations to that in memory of Michael. Those will go to jointly Special Effect, which is a charity which allows disabled people to gain access to playing games, and also the German Shepherd Dog Welfare Fund. Michael was a big fan of German Shepherd dogs, and that's where those charity monies will be going to. So yeah, so if you go, I'm just seeing that in the chat. If you're going to Alpha Centauri, do not go to Hutton Orbital. A shout out to the Hutton Orbital truckers, by the way. But do not go to Hutton Orbital because it takes a ridiculously long time to get there. I think it's one of the furthest. It may not be the furthest, but it's certainly one of the furthest things. It's got a bit of mythos associated with it. That if you go there, you get a free anaconda. I can't possibly comment on whether that's true or not. Just be careful of taking any missions anywhere near Alpha Centauri, because if it asks you to go to Hutton Orbital, you will.
Pay attention, Commander. Ship-to-ship collisions will not be tolerated.
For the mug, yes. So for the mug needs a little bit of explanation as well. So you may be seeing that in the chat going, well, what the heck does that mean? What does for the mug mean? So that's now indelibly associated with the Hutton Orbital truckers. So yes, it's the journey to Alpha Centauri and the Hutton Orbital, and whether the Anaconda is available, is a journey every commander must take for themselves. When we get to we will be going to Earth. We will be going to Earth. So yes, for the mug. Now, back in the dim and distant past, at one of the conventions, there was a script that was written, and there was a fictional, a rather disrespectful, dare I say it, somewhat risque, writing by Dave Pearson and co. So I don't know if Dave Pearson's in the chat tonight, but Dave Pearson and co. The Hutton Orbital truckers wrote a, shall we say, very irreverent sketch about Elite Dangerous, called Dockers. I think Psychocow was involved as well at the beginning. It may have even been his initiative to start with. I can't. It's such a long time ago. I can't remember. Yeah, let's go to the Abraham Lincoln Space Station. So yeah, so there was this thing called Dockers, and it's very irreverent and probably not safe for work. Okay, so just be aware. But Michael rather enjoyed the sort of slightly anarchic creations of the community, and he encouraged them to kind of keep going. Now, in one episode, there was effectively a war between the Federation and the Empire, which we'll introduce in a little bit in Elite Dangerous. And on the side of the Federation, there was the mysterious Commander Drubin. Brubin, I think his name was. David Brubin, who was not very difficult to figure out who that was. Gently mocking, shall we say. And on the other side, for the Empire, of course, you needed a villain of some notoriety, and so the Dockers crew decided that the Empire side of the battle would be hosted by Senator Drew, a very dodgy character indeed. And there was a war, and the Senator, of course, didn't have the munitions at his hand that he needed to have, so he basically loaded his catapult with slaves, because that's what you do in the Empire. So slaves were used as ammunition against the Federation, but the Federation responded by loading their catapults with mugs, and so basically, pretty much at every convention ever since that script came out, mug and for the mug has been a cry of battle and a cry of honour. And I think I'm right in saying that's the earliest. That's where the mug thing came from. As you can see, it was a long time ago, and very silly. So I went for many years by the moniker of Senator Drew, and I think Michael got roped into being a character for parts of Dockers as well. So a very much irreverent creation of the community was Dockers. And an acquired taste probably, but There we go. For the mug. Silly, yes. So, I mean, there are. That's the wonderful thing about the Elite Dangerous community that Michael was part of, is that there were sensible bits, there were in-depth bits, there were scientific bits. I mean, you're talking about a game that actually, piqued the interest of people at NASA at times during its existence. But on the other hand, we had this this very silly anarchic side to the game, which was it's just very, 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 very stupid indeed. So there we go. Now here we are at the Abraham Lincoln Space Station. I don't think we need any introduction to who Abraham Lincoln was, but if I turn my ship around with a bit of luck, you may see a familiar looking planet. I'm not quite sure. Is that Australia? I think that's not Australia, is it? What are we looking at there? Is that Africa? Yeah, it's Africa. There we go. So you can see Africa and maybe just a little dab of Europe up there at the top. So here we are this gives you again a feeling for, the remarkableness of this game. So not only can we travel across space, but we can actually go and visit actual real places. So this is the Earth. This is the Earth in Elite Dangerous. Now the year in Elite Dangerous is, I don't know, what is it? What is it now? 3308 or 09? I don't know. Where have we got to? You can see there, that's right, you can see the Middle East at the top right. Europe is kind of a little bit over the top of the screen there. It's mostly Africa and a bit of Madagascar off the side there. It's 3309 now, is it? Can you land on it? No, we can't land on these kind of planets. We can land on some with the Odyssey thing. We bless the rains down in Africa, we do. But you can go to the solar system. You can actually go to Mars. You can go to the Moon. You can go to Jupiter and Saturn and see all the real things in space. And they're all convincingly put together, which is a lovely thing. Now we're here in the Federation. Now this is the heart and soul of the Federation in Elite Dangerous. Now it's obviously this is a fictional game set, 1,000 years in the future, give or take, and. Stuff has happened since then. So basically, to give you a very, 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 very quick potted history of what's happened between 2023 and 3309 is basically America has won. So all the Americans in the chat can have a big cheer. Yeah, go America, because basically there's a third world war that takes place on the Earth, and America wins, basically, and everybody else loses. So, alas, all the other countries in the world cease to exist in the Third World War, and America takes over the world, and it becomes the United, rather than the United States of America, it becomes the United Federation of Earth, and then just ultimately becomes the Federation, right? Fortunately, the Earth, it still appears to be a nice place, although there's now a massive anaconda parked in front of it. Or is that a cutter? I can't tell. That might even be, not a cutter, a Corvette. Might even be a Corvette. I'm not very good at recognising the side. With Barnard's Loop in the background. Now, well done America for winning that. So it's a fictional history, right? Fictional, well, is it history? Yes, but it is from this perspective, yeah. So yeah, it's just popped out of the way. And it's, again, something that Michael Brookes did. He took the timeline of Elite, and with a number of other people, he put together what events had happened. So there's a potted history that exists of Elite Dangerous right from actually several years ago up until the year 3309. So the entire history of the galaxy from humanity's perspective has been plotted out. We know when the events happen. So events happen in the 21st century, in the 22nd century, in the 23rd century, 24th century, all the way up to the current day in Elite Dangerous. All that had to be done, all that had to be written, all that had to be put together and curated. Michael Brookes is your man. Okay. And again, to show the skill of the Frontier programmers and the work that Michael Brookes did, we're in the Earth system. Now you'd think, it would be pretty impressive, right? If all the constellations were correct, right, from the perspective of Earth, and they are, okay? Those of you who are astronomers may be able to see this shape here, directly in front of us. You see where there's that nebulosity, that's Barnard's Loop and the Orion Nebula, and you may be able to see top left there, Betelgeuse, bottom right Rigel, and the belt stars of Orion. So the night sky that you see out of your window at night here on the Earth is perfectly represented in Elite Dangerous when you're in Earth. And that is probably one of the most impressive things to me, that the star position is not just, let's just randomly scatter some stars through space. They're all in exactly the right place, so that when you go, as we have done just now, to Earth, all the stars look like they do in the actual real night sky, right? And you can go to myself, right, I'm going to go, that star top left, I'm going to go there. You can, and that's just amazing. And you can go visit them all. So it's an amazing accomplishment to have the real night sky here. So there's Orion. If we go up over here, actually behind the Earth, you can just see, I've got it straight ahead there, and there's a little patch of stars right in the middle of the screen. Now that's the Pleiades star cluster, which again is a real place. That's where all the Thargoids hang out, so we don't want to go there this evening. If I go across, I've got to get this right, we should be able to see, there we go. There is actually quite close to the Sun. I'm going to put it right in the middle. I'm doing a little bit of junior astronomy here. You can see a square of stars there in the middle. That's the square of Pegasus. And if you go up here, this is the constellation of Andromeda, and then right in the center there is the Andromeda galaxy itself, which you would be able to see, right? Okay, it looks amazing, because it is amazing. It's an amazing construct. I think the galaxy of Elite Dangerous is one of the most amazing things that was ever created for Elite. It really, really good. So, and obviously you can visit the Earth. I don't know if you all saw it, but just there in the background, if I just pan around very gently, in the middle of Orion from this perspective, you can actually see the moon. It's quite a long way off there, but there's also the moon. I'm just trying to get it right dead center so you can see it. There it goes. So that's it's the moon. It's there. Okay. We can go and visit the Voyager space probe. So Voyager was a real space probe that was launched in 1977. I remember because I watched it go up, and it's still traveling through space now. And Frontier, and I imagine Michael Brookes had a hand in this as well. I can't confirm that one, but I imagine he did. Is you can go and visit the Frontier. You can go visit the Voyager probe, but not where it is today, because of course that would be wrong, right? So somebody at Frontier worked out where the Voyager space probes will be in the year 3309 and put them in the right place in space. And that's just it's very geeky, but it's very, very cool indeed. So there we go. But anyway, we must continue a pace. Right, we are off to Achenar now. Okay. So let me just show you the route. For those of you who don't have the Achenar permit, Lyabezi system is where we're going to head to. So let's go to Achenar. Now I did have a debate, shall we say, with Michael Brookes, and I stress the word debate because basically Michael Brookes was the decision-making authority in Elite Dangerous, and you know, his word was law when it came to what was going to happen. I'm just going to gently shoot off again, and I said, "Hang on a minute, Michael, Achenar, right? You do realise it's spelt wrong in Elite, okay?" And in the original, well, not in the original game because Achenar didn't exist in the original Elite, but in the second and the third games, it was spelt the way it's spelt here, Achenar, with only a single R basically. Now, in every other place in the entire universe, i.e., astronomical star charts and everything else like that, you know, proper stuff, Achenar has an extra R in it, okay, before the N. Now this just shows my pedantic nature, okay? So I basically kept giving Michael a hard time. I said, can't you spell Achenar, Michael? And he would he would look at me and send me snotty emails back going, and it's just avoiding the subject for a long, long time. So I tackled him about it at LaveCon and said, it's spelt wrong, Michael. When are you going to change the spelling of Achenar so it's right? And he said, I'm thinking about it. The game isn't out yet, I'm thinking about it. So again, the game came out in alpha, and it came out in beta. Eventually came out in gamma, and Akinar was still spelt wrong, right? And so I tackled him. I sent him another email saying, "You still spelt Akinar wrong, Michael. When are you going to fix it?" And he sent me back a very, very, very short email saying, "It's being spelt Akinar without the R." And at that point, I knew I'd lost. So the reason it's spelt like that, because Michael basically preferred that way of spelling it. That's the only explanation I've got. Is that it was spelt that way in the original games, which I can only assume was a typo. Michael preferred the incorrect spelling. So because he was in charge, that's how it's spelt. Okay. I think it's conked out my hyperspace thing again, isn't it? So that's a bug, is it? Yeah, it has, look. So Akinar is supposed to be spelt like that. And I think it's supposed to be pronounced Ashinar. Okay, so without the R, it totally changes the way you pronounce it as well. So it's now Akinar. But that's how Michael liked it, so that's how it is. Okay. Who am I to gainsay Michael Brookes, right? Anyway. So there we go. Let's get ourselves up. Now the reason, of course, we're going to Akinar is because it's the coolest place in the game. I'm sure you'll all agree. Those of you who are an Empire distribution, Akinar is the home of the Imperials. Now the Imperials are effectively the antagonists to the Federation. So in the 23rd century, in Elite Dangerous timeline, a bunch of explorers left Earth rather dissatisfied with the way the Federation was going, and said, we're gonna form a new society. We're gonna do things better. We're gonna do things right. We're gonna do things properly. And the lady who set off with these excellent morals and progressive ideas got to the Akinar system, and within a few years of arriving, accidentally brutally killed herself in a flying accident. And her brother, surprisingly, was in a position to take over, and he didn't really approve of her highfalutin ideas of integrity and honesty and democracy and all those kind of boring things. No, he didn't. He wanted something entirely different. He wanted almost in a sort of Star Warsian style, a sort of the universe's first galactic empire. And so that's what he did. He basically formed the empire based on kind of very totally imperialistic. It's called out again, isn't it? It's just slightly annoying. And founded the empire, on imperial terms. So the empire is kind of David Braben described it to me as well. The empire is sort of a cross between the British Empire at the height of its power, huzzah, and a kind of Roman Republic as it was before Caesar and all that sort of stuff. So actually, the Federation and the Empire, in space terms, it's kind of like, okay, so if the Federation is the USA, then the Empire is effectively Great Britain. All right. So clearly, the Empire is way cooler. I can get away with that because I'm on the internet, yeah, we would have lively debates, the writers, about the Federation, the pros and cons of the Federation and the Empire, with respect to which was best. Michael Brookes was a big fan of the Empire, just so you know. Okay, he liked that sort of thing. And what was nice about the Empire is we had a chance to explore a very different culture, because there's nothing really we know historically of empires, right? You know, like the Roman Empire, the British Empire, and all those kind of things. But I'm just going to cook my ship a little bit here, refueling. So I'm just going to back out of that a bit. Need to refuel a little bit. Oh, now I've just cooked my ship. Oops. Haven't done fuel scooping for a while. There we go. So yeah, so it was just, you know, basically that's the background. So the empire is a very different kind of organisation to anything that you'd actually encounter on the Earth today. But that made for good story information. You could do a lot of stuff with that. And Michael Brookes really liked the whole imperial thing. To add something different to the game. It's fair to say that Michael Brookes also described to me that the Alliance, which is the third sort of much more recent superpower in the Elite Dangerous universe, was effectively the European Union. So that's the basis, and obviously you can only stretch those analogies so far, but that's essentially the sort of political get-up of the universe. Is the Federation is America on steroids. The Empire is effectively the UK with a bit of Roman stuff thrown in, and the Alliance is effectively the European Union. So that's effectively what you've got. So while we're here, it's only appropriate for us to go and visit the heart of the Empire itself, which I think is Akanar 6. Let's go to. And you can. There's a whole bunch of tourist beacons here. You can read about what's going on. There's some excellent stuff in there actually, about the war with the Federation and all sorts of things. Capitol is the main planet. Dawes Hub looks like to be the key space station. That's actually quite a long way off. So rather than go there, I think we might just skip ahead because time is time. So there's some morally dubious things going on in the Empire. They do have slavery and they do have indentured servitude and all sorts of weird things that we might in our enlightened Western cultures today go, ooh, that's a bit dodgy. This is fiction. This is science fiction. It's a world out there that's been created very, very differently to anything that we know here. Again, another thing that Michael liked, creating different worlds and various other bits and pieces. Right, onwards we must go. We are going next to Capophonicus. I think I pronounced that right. Or possibly Capophonicus. And we'll pick up the story there as well. Is now. Let's hope that the plotting works. I hope you guys are all keeping up. So I did encourage everyone to bring a reasonably fast ship. So it's only 3 jumps for me, but hopefully you're all keeping up with the talk. So yes, I almost cooked my spaceship. Apologies, but I haven't. It's remembering how all this sort of stuff works. Let's go through space again. Now, you may be thinking, why are we going here? Okay. I've got dozens of commanders following me, that's right. Did either the Imperial or Alliance systems have stations like the Jameson Moore? There are some significant stations in those systems, yes. But most of the story is told through those lore beacons, those tourist beacons. So those are the things to go and to look for. So off we go to hyperspace once more, travelling through space. I don't know how many light years we've done, several hundred light years by now. Kamakichi must sadly go to work. Good to see you, Commander. Thank you very much for popping in.
Incoming mission critical message.
I have no idea what the mission critical message is, but there we go.
Fuel scooping.
Now, the reason we're heading to this particular world is because Michael put this one in the game, very specifically. So we'll find out a little bit more about that
Fuel scoop disengaged.
in a moment.
Frame shift drive charging.
How dare you skip our beautiful Imperial stations? Apologies for that. Time is pressing, my friends. Time is pressing. It is fair to say that the inside of the Imperial stations is much nicer than the the ordinary ones. When I saw this is another thing that Michael Brookes did for me. When I saw the inside of the Imperial stations, I was like, oh, they look really, really good, because they're all like they're like a big Apple iStore. Okay, everything in the Empire. White is the favourite colour. If you buy an Imperial ship, you'll notice it starts out as white and shiny. And if I show you in a moment, I'll just go to the outside of my ship, just while we're talking about the Empire. The Empire is all about ostentation, okay, and dress to impress, form over function. Okay, so if you look at my ship, it's this glorious. Look at the bits folding down at the top. It's it's pretty. There we go. I'm just going to pan around it so you can get a kind of a feel for it. So this is an Imperial ship. This is the Imperial cutter, and as you can see, it's a sort of thing of beauty. It's got little blue highlighting. It's sort of a it's a glorious thing to behold. Basically, it's Imperial ships are pretty. They are just very nice things to see, and they all start off being white. Okay, you can get them in other colours if you want, but you're wrong if you do. So don't mess about with that. The Imperial ships are to be seen and to be seen in, basically, and the entirety of Imperial culture is like that. Okay, and that's a founding thing about the Empire. So they're just glorious, nice things to need. But the inside of an Imperial station is no different. Okay, it's just nice. Okay, it's shiny, it's clean, it's got white this and it's got uplighters, and it's it's just looks amazing. Okay, when I saw the Imperial stations, I just said, and Michael Brookes had put my own space station in the game, and my space station wasn't in Imperial space. I think it's actually in Alliance space. And I said, Michael, I said, is there any chance? I said, that I could have the Imperial inside to my station, please. And he said, no, not making any favours. You pesky authors asking for things. And so I didn't get it. And though a few weeks later, I sent him a cheeky email saying, you know what I'd really like on my birthday, Michael. He went, yes. I said, I'd like the Imperial inside to my station, please. And nothing happened. I didn't get a response to that email for several days. And then on my birthday, I got an email from Michael Brookes that just had a little winky face in the email, right? And when I went to my space station, the Eulexia system had J. Wagar's as used where we started out. It had this amazing interior transformation. It's like somebody put in the hardest night's work in history, and the entirety of the internal space station was changed to the Imperial model. So it may be, I don't know how many other, because it's an ordinary Coriolis space station, it's not a special one. So I don't know how many other Coriolis space stations have got that in them. I don't know. It might be a relatively common thing, but that's something that Michael just sneaked past for me. So I don't know what trouble he got into for doing things like that, but he did that sort of thing quite a lot for players. He sneaked things in every so often. It was very, very good. Right, we are here now. We've got to go to the space station called Harvest Port. Okay, so that's where we've got to go. Harvest Port. Now this is important. This is very important. So head to the Harvest Port space station in the Kappa Phoenicius system. This is true, not pointing his spaceship in the right location. So there we go. Eulexia is my system. So yes, as part of the Kickstarter rewards of being one of the authors, I got to name a system and define what was in the system. So Eulexia is effectively my system, but Michael Brookes did that for me as well. He put that in the game. And then, like I said, gave some spit and polish to the inside. So yes, my station's got green stuff. It's got a couple of little statues in it. It's very, very cool. So thank you very much for that, Michael. That was very nice. The Formula 9 Rift. So yes, the Formula 9 Rift is what it was. It's all been done now. A series of mysteries in Elite Dangerous that was happening between beginning of the game really in 2017. Michael basically asked the writers, okay, we want to put cool mysteries in the game, guys. What cool mystery ideas do you have? And so the writers sort of went away and scratched their heads, and I came back with, well, I mean, I'd love to do the Raxler thing, but that was off limits, so I couldn't do it. So I said, I want to have something a bit like the Raxler thing, and I sort of racked my brain. I said, what if there's a place in space? That's a nice moon, isn't it? Look at that. That's really close. I haven't noticed that before. What if there was an area in space where strange and mysterious stuff was happening, like a kind of Bermuda Triangle, and that's basically where the idea behind the Formula 9 Rift came. And Michael and I developed the Formula 9 Rift story together. So again, I got to work with Michael on putting a mystery inside the game. And I know that many of you spent many long months trailing through space trying to find out what the heck was going on out there. So apologies for that. But it was quite cool. Now we're going to pull up here for a moment in front of the Harvest Port space station, and I'll explain why in a moment. Fornacis, it might well be pronounced Fornacis. I have no idea. Pronunciation isn't my strong suit. Let's bring my ship to it. This is the Imperial cutter that I'm flying here is probably. Well, there's no problem about it. It is the worst handling spaceship in Elite Dangerous. It's like it needs a new set of rear tyres, basically. It slides everywhere. So there, I'm going to kind of hold position there. There we go. There's the Harvest Port space station, which is a lovely place. Look, you can see it's got this amazing spinning ring, which is all habitable on the inside. It's an amazing looking thing. So I think that looks really, really good. So people are coming and going. Now the reason I wanted to stop here is because this is a locale that is featured in Michael's book, okay, Elite Legacy, which is, in his words, actually a spiritual sequel to the Dark Wheel. Many of us back in sort of 2012, 2013 thought he was writing an actual sequel to the Dark Wheel, but that's not what he did. He wrote what he called a spiritual sequel. This is kind of an extra adventure. So some of the action takes place literally here. Now I want to read you. Now I mean, bear in mind Michael Brookes. Okay, we all know what Michael Brookes looked like. He was a big chap. I don't think that's unreasonable for me to say, right? With a great big beard. At least most of the time, he did shave it off entirely at one point, along with his hair for charity. It's the sort of guy he was, we need some music playing as that anaconda floated past, don't we? Anyway, so Michael Brookes, big guy with a beard. Okay. Now there's a character in this book called. He just goes by the name of Hammer. I don't think we might find out his actual name, but I'm not sure. Now I want to read you something here from Michael's book. Okay. Now, basically, the main protagonist of the story is a lady called Julia, okay, and she's trying to recruit a bunch of pilots to her cause, okay, and I'm just going to read this because I think this is interesting. Okay, just picture Michael Brookes in your mind, big beard, big chap, axe, usual things, okay, and just use your imagination, okay. While Julia waited, she observed the other customers. There were only 3 others in the bar. The first drew her eye immediately, since he was huge. Her father had told her tales of the old gods of Earth, and in the gloom of her cell they seemed larger than life. But here, sat at the table in the middle of the room with his back to her, was a giant of a man. He looked like one of the old gods from northern mountains, enjoying a break far from the earth. And when he raised his glass, she saw the side of his face. He sported a fine reddish beard that blended with the mass of long hair bunched into a loose ponytail, and in the low gravity wisps of it floated behind his head. Across the room in a booth similar to her own sat 2 other men. They chatted together, though in the few minutes she watched them they didn't touch their drinks. Here you go. Somebody interrupts Julia's observation. I know you're a fan of loud music, so I'm sure the other customers won't mind a bit of lively music to accompany their drinks. That's fine with me, the giant man boomed. Julia noticed the big man move his head in time with a pounding rhythm, his flair flowing in a trail behind the motion. What was all that about? Julia asked, keeping her voice low. We have unfriendly ears, but we are secure here. The noise cancellation reduces the volume of the music. Not everyone likes the loud music or prepares to talk. The cancellation allows us to speak and also hampers any remote listening devices. And so that is the first time our protagonist meets Hammer, who's a guy on the space station. So I don't know about you. Now, I think that was Mr. Brooks. That was Mr. Brooks giving himself a little cameo in his book. I might be wrong. But here's a guy, you know, big beard, orangey sort of hair, likes an axe, likes a fight, likes a drink, flies a badass spaceship that doesn't pull any punches, has a sort of godlike Norse feel to him. Anyway, that scene takes place in a bar, okay? And that bar is here, all right, in the Harvestport space station. So if Michael Brookes is anywhere in Elite Dangerous, this is where he is, all right? This is where he is. This is... I just have a strange feeling that, you know, in some strange, odd way, he's still hanging around in a bar in there, waiting for someone to buy him a drink. So... It's not his space station in the sense we're going to end up at Michael Brookes' actual space station, but here is a sort of, you know, this is maybe a place where Michael hangs out and has a drink. So there we go. Yeah, let's just check out that mission because I don't know what's going on. I think it's somebody wants us to collect some salvage. I don't think that's anything to do with a message for Drew Wagar. There's some salvage we'd like you to reverse. No, we're not going to do that, computer. That's just it's just the game doing things for us. But yeah, so Harvestport. That's in the bar. That's where Michael should be. I think it'd be cool if you could go to Harvestport and there's this guy sitting in the bar and you could just buy him a drink. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be awesome. So that's the significance of this particular star system. But onwards we must go. Onwards we must go. So let us set course for the next place on our tour, which is Freeholm in the Artemis system, which is literally next door. Okay, so we haven't got to go very far, which is good. Again, it's really good to see so many commanders. So thanks everybody for popping in. Really appreciate the number of people. Just for the rest of you, I mean, you guys don't get to see the stats, but I'm seeing about 200 people watching the stream. So thank you to all the Elite Dangerous commanders who've turned up and done things. There's clearly a lot of pilots flying around as well. So it's great to see you all. Thank you very much for popping in and paying your respects to Michael. He did so much for us, in this game. It's nice to see so many of you who've have turned out with your spacecraft and are flying around in memory of him. So that's absolutely fabulous. And for those of you who aren't in the same instance as me, hopefully you're seeing something similar as well, which is really, really good. Again, Michael's family sent me the link today for if you would like to make a contribution to charity on behalf of Michael. Please do. I'm going to put that link in the chat again. There are two charities that Michael was a big part of. Special Effect, which does grant disabled kids access to gaming, allows them to play. So they're really cool actually. They make special controllers that they can, people with disabilities can use when they can't access, like a joystick or a gamepad. So that's one of the things that they do. And the other charity is the German Shepherd Dog Welfare Fund. Michael Brookes actually had a German Shepherd, and he was involved in a big way in that charity as well. So any contributions you make, I'm sure, will be gratefully received. A nice thing to do in memory of Michael as well. So on behalf of the Dangerous community as well. Right, let us get to the Artemis system. Where in the system? We will be going to the Freeholm space station. Freeholm is where we need to go. and get my cutter up to speed. It's again probably one of the slowest ships in the game. Actually, I think it's not too bad, but I haven't done a great deal of the engineering on this. I think it is an asteroid base as well, which is very, very cool. Yep.
Incoming mission critical message.
This guy is really keen for me to do some sandwich, isn't he? Right, let's set course for Freehold.
Fuel scooping complete.
If I can find it. Where is it? Oh, so much stuff now. There it is. Shows up as an asteroid base, which is very cool. Now, just actually, I'm going to throttle down just a moment before we get there. I want to take you through a few other bits and pieces about Michael. Just give you a bit of context about his involvement. I've got some pictures here, actually, that I grabbed. Some of you will have seen these, some of you won't. So up in the top left, obviously, is up in the top left of those pictures is Michael's book cover. And we got it here as well. So yeah, he wrote a book. I mean, that's no small thing anyway, right? Writing a book, that's a big deal. There is also a picture of the first ever Elite Convention. So the next picture along the top there is LaveCon 2013. You'll see Michael in the middle there. So that, you know, Michael was in the community before the community kind of even became a thing, and that was a really early convention. So that was mostly old Elite fans. You know, Elite Dangerous, the game, didn't exist at that point, but Michael was already there going to the convention. So that shows you how big a fan of the entire franchise he was. He went to the conventions before the game even existed. And a few of you may see some familiar commanders in there as well. There are some other faces, sadly, in there who are also no longer with us, I think, but such is the nature of time. So yeah, he was a big fan of hanging around in bars, was Michael, but that's, you know, that's good. The next picture along it's obviously me with slightly dishevelled look upon my face and slightly dishevelled hair before the hat even was a thing, I think. Standing next to Michael Brookes. I think that was the second Elite Convention, which was Fantasticon in 2014, when the game had just come out. It wasn't long, and all the initial mysteries are being kicked off. I'd gone along as Senator Drew in that case. That's why I've got that weird red stripe. So I'm the one with the sash. But Michael was, you know, Michael was a big fan of all the fiction. He came and bought my book, which was a really cool thing to do because he didn't need to, because he'd already read it, because he had to approve it. But he bought my book and got me to sign it, which was, I think, one of the first sort of book signings I had actually ever done. And you know, there was Michael Brookes buying a copy of my book, so that was very, very cool. Very, very nice. In the middle bottom there is Michael Brookes at the Elite Dangerous premiere, which also happened in 2014. I think that was the Frontier's own launch event for the Elite Dangerous game, where they sort of ceremoniously switched the game on to kind of full mode. So Michael was in the midst of that, giving talks and doing all sorts of kind of cool stuff. That was really, really cool. On the left there, just left, is an email. I don't know if that will show up too well on your screens, but that email there is an important one in my personal collection. That email is the email I got from Michael Brookes saying, yes, Drew, I'm going to approve your book. So there'd been loads and loads of toing and froing over the draft of Elite Reclamation, which took about 3 months. And finally, I changed everything in it and made it acceptable to Michael Brookes' intentions. So it was like, yes, I finally passed. It was like I've got the headmaster has basically said, yes, everything's okay. So that's really, really good. So it was a big moment for me when I got that email from Michael saying, yes, Drew, your book's good enough to be part of the Elite Dangerous lore. So thank you very much for that one, Michael. That was a very, very, very special moment indeed for me. So that was good. The last photo requires some explanation, as I'll let you just have a quick look at it again. So, for those of you who don't know your musicals, that's actually a, dare I say it, photoshopped. Not very well photoshopped. Psycho Cow, T. Mad Cow did that one for me. And it was it's a Photoshop of the musical Oliver. Where there's obviously an orphan kid and bad things happen to him. Now the three characters there are Nancy, Fagin and Bill Sykes. Okay, so Nancy is a young lady who basically tries to look after Oliver, but eventually gets her head pounded in by Bill Sykes. And Fagin is the sort of slightly dodgy guy who's basically, he's got that classic song, "Gotta pick a pocket or two," all that sort of stuff. So Psycho basically kept taking pictures of me, Michael, and David Braben, mostly, as you can see from those, and sticking us into fanciful things. It just shows you the sort of the wacky nature of the Elite Dangerous community as it was back in those days. It was it was a very, very odd time. Okay, but that particular one was to do with Drew. It was all about the star map. So Drew, is the star map available, Michael Brookes? And Michael Brookes saying, nope, soon. And then David Braben basically coming with a big stick saying, look, it'll be ready when it's ready. Just shut her up. And Psycho Cow sort of immortalised us in his not particularly good photoshops of various things. So yeah, just a few funny photos of some cool memories of Michael. So he had a real sense of humour. I think that's the big thing. He had a huge, very wry, very dry at times sense of humour, but an amazing guy, and a lot of that was in his books, in his stories, in the background of Elite Dangerous as well. Very, very cool. Had a lot of fun back in the day with those bits and pieces. Right, we're now approaching the Freeholm space station. I imagine there'll be a few people here as well. There we are. I've got the 6-second rule perfectly done. There we go. Look at that. For those of you who don't know, if you keep the timer countdown at 6 seconds like that on the way in, you're coming in at the optimal approach speed for Super Cruise. The rule of 6. Now there is Freeholm Space Station. Okay, now it's a space station which is in an asteroid, which is a rather cool thing. Okay, so it doesn't rotate in the same fashion. It does look. There's a lot of people here. There we go. I'm just going to park in front. It's full of tourists. Yes, it's only a fool breaks the 6-second rule. That's right, the rule of 6. It's obviously become a bit of a tourist location, isn't it? It's full of NPC belugas. Yeah, but this is the location of Michael Brookes' story itself. So the Freeholm Station is, as you can, I don't know if you how well. Let me change mode a moment. Where is it? 2 camera. There we go. Is hopefully you can see that if I angle it there. There's the Freeholm Station on the cover of his book. So you can see the entrance there. There's a couple of eagles coming out, and then there's this Lakon Type 7 or Type 10, Type 9. Most knowledgeable. I think it's a Type 7. Because I think that's the initial scene in the book that gets blown to pieces and the eagles come and try and rescue it. So we are there. This is where Michael Brookes' story actually happened. So the entirety of the events, most of the events that take place in Elite Legacy, start and originate here. So the Freeholm Station is effectively where Michael set his story, and all the protagonists of that story kind of came and went in here. Now, for those, not too many spoilers for the book, but let's be honest, most of them come to a sticky end, right? And it's yeah. Michael Brookes wasn't afraid of killing people off. In fact, in the there were many discussions earlier on. I remember talking to Michael Brookes about where the overall story of Elite was going with the Empire and the Federation and the Alliance and the Thargoids and all those sort of things. And you know, there was various different threads of things that could have happened. Okay, and Michael was, as you'd expect based on what we've seen from the generation ships, Michael was very, very, very keen on everything going really badly wrong. He was once famously quoted, I think at a LaveCon, where he basically said, "Let the bubble burn." He wanted the Thargoids to come in and basically wipe humanity out, and we'd all be on the total back foot. You know, Earth would be gone, Achenar would be gone, the whole lot. The Thargoids would just come in and wipe us out. That's what Michael Brookes wanted to happen, which would have been pretty dark. Would have been pretty cool, I think. I think a few players might have been a little bit upset by that. You know, some of their really cool trade routes being disrupted, but it would have made for an interesting few years of gameplay. So Michael Brookes was a big fan of a dark ending. In fact, in here, there's a real shock moment. I won't spoil it for you because, you know, if you haven't read the book, but there's a real shock moment when one particular character meets their demise. I go, yep, that's classic Michael writing. That is, it's like just lead up to it, bang. Oh, okay then, that's how it's going to end up, is it? So there's some serious darkness going on there. I mean, you only have to look at Michael's posts and things, and his love of H.P. Lovecraft and authors like that to see, that he liked a bit of darkness in his storytelling. I think it was really good. So Mind Wipe says, my favourite conversation with Mike at LaveCon 2017 was discussing the dialogue mistakes they accidentally did in the first 6 months. I always loved it when Hengist Duval was talking about his son on Gallant, and they dropped a few S-bombs. Now, I wouldn't. Michael was occasionally mischievous. You know, always in a very subtle way. But I got the impression that he rather enjoyed being mischievous. But yeah, there were lots of plans for humanity to be in exile from the attacking Thargoids. I mean, for those of you who know the detail, there was the Premonition story arc and the Formidine Rift was all about a contingency plan when the Thargoids came, because the idea being that the Thargoids were technologically superior and they were going to effectively wipe us out because we didn't know how to respond. And so we were in the process of planning evacuations and various other bits and pieces. So there were all sorts of shenanigans going on with it. And Michael Brookes was, very keen. There should be a lot of destruction and mayhem going on. Unfortunately, that storyline seems to have never happened, which is a bit of a shame. But it's all ancient history now. But the Thargoids seem to be a little bit less fearsome in terms of the acquisition of territory than perhaps they might have been. But they're still out there. They're still doing their thing. So beware. I think that's one of the key things. Which is good fun. Now we are about 20 minutes away from the end of the stream. Now, traditionally what we do on these lore tours is we organise a mass hyperspace jump. Okay, so what we try to do is we try to get as many ships as possible into the same locale. And then we do a simultaneous jump to another star system. We're going to attempt the same thing here. Now, I'm just conscious that there are an awful lot of NPCs here, which may cause us some issues. So I'm just wondering whether it's worth decamping to a slightly different location to make sure that we don't overstress the game and we can get the maximum number of players in. So I'm just going to have a quick scan down. There is the Freeholm Victory. Well, that's a tourist beacon, so that will be full of NPCs as well. I was hoping that Freeholm itself would be a little bit freer. There is a fleet carrier here, Shaman's Goal. We could go there. There is another, the Lafreyan Shipyard. Now that is a place in the game as well. It might be worth us trying there. Let's decamp quickly. Oh, we're not heading to. Oh yeah, sorry, I've got one more stop on the route, haven't I? What am I doing? You're quite. We do. What am I thinking? I'm just ignoring my own my own plot. Yes, entirely apologies. Let's get across to the prism system. There we go. Let's get across to there. Bum, 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 bum. 3 jumps away. If there's an asteroid cluster, yes, there might be. Yep, that's right. We got to get to Ross 7778. Just in the interest of time, actually, I might tell you what. Let's skip Prism because I've kind of talked about what Michael Brookes did for me on behalf, and that was what I was going to mention in the Prism system. Unless Ross 488 is on the way, let's just have a look where it is because otherwise we may run out of time. Let's just have a look. We're there. Where is Ross 788? Because it's more important we go from Ross 788, really. Yeah, let's go direct. We're gonna skip. Is it 788 or 488? It's 788. Yeah, we're gonna go there. Let's. I'll talk a little bit about Prism on the way, but let's go to 788. Ross 788 is where we need to go. That's my entire apologies. I thought we'd got, we're near the end than we were. Let's get there. So we've seen Michael Brookes' station there, but this is actually what we're going to go to in Ross 788 is actually Michael Brookes' actual station. So it seems important that we go there to pay our respects to his actual station. Get out of range, there we go. Oh, look, fireworks. They look very cool. Web Metal Reeves, did he ever tell you where Raxler was and what about TNSler? Well, TNSler we've covered earlier in the stream, but Raxler, now it's worth mentioning Raxler. Now, Raxler is the mystery in Elite Dangerous. Raxler is supposed to be this magical portal planet that contains immeasurable riches. Maybe it contains a portal to other dimensions. Who knows what's there? There's no reliable information about Raxler whatsoever. It is, we just, it's the ultimate mystery. Unfortunately, there's very little to go on in game or outside a game as to where is Raxler? What is Raxler? We have very, very sparse information. Now I know. Because I spoke to Michael Brookes. I've been to the Frontier offices 3 times in my kind of career as writing for them, and I, clearly it was one of the questions that I was going to ask, right? And because I was a writer, kind of in Frontier's employ at the time, I actually wrote a series of missions for them in version 1.5 and version 2.2 of Elite. So I don't know if those exist anymore, but there are some missions of mine in the game, and. So I basically asked Michael, this whole Raxler business, come on, spill the beans. And obviously he didn't, because he wasn't going to. But I'd asked David Braben about Raxler years before, and he told me, yeah, it's in the game. He just said that's what he said. I can't really do much more than basically say that's what he said to me. I don't know. Do I know where it is? No, I don't. Alas. Did Michael Brookes know where it is? Well, he said to me that yes, he knew where it was. But he didn't tell me where it was. And I could, David Braben clearly knew. So I'm kind of hoping that Michael Brookes has told somebody else. Otherwise, it's only David Braben that knows now, because it was like a proper high-level secret. Okay, within Frontier, I don't think that many people would have known about it. So the only other person who, in that organisation who definitely knows is David Braben. So I'm afraid that's all I can give you. I don't know anything else, and neither does anybody else, as far as I'm aware. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's the friends we met along the way. Right, now here in Ross 788 we need to go to a space station called Brookes Abyss. that's our final destination today. Well, almost final destination. So this is the space station. I don't know who put this in for Michael. This has been in the game for quite some time, so it's not a recent addition to the game. But I believe this is a space station that was put into the Elite for Michael whilst he was still executive producer of the game. It only seems right that such a major contribution to the game would have been recognised by a space station all those years ago. So this is a space station which is there, and whether it will be enhanced by something, whether Frontier themselves will add something to this space station in memory of Michael, we'll have to wait and see. This I suppose is maybe the obvious place to put something. Although Michael's got claims to all sorts of places. They could do something in Tir Isla. They could do all sorts of things, and obviously up to them if they want to commemorate Michael's contributions to Elite in that fashion. So, but as far as I know, this is Michael's space station. This one kind of belongs to him, as it were. So let's arrive here. And come out the wrong side of it. Let's get round to the front. I can see a few other spaceships already flying around. So what we're going to do here is we are going to organise our mass hyperspace jump from here in the direction of I think the Wolf 89, something like that, a system. There's a Brookes Memorial Fleet Carrier. Okay, now, okay, I can see a few other players about. Let's get my ship to a speed where it actually manoeuvres. There we go. I'm going to just park in front of the space station for a moment. Look how much it side slips. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So yeah, so I think maybe Frontier will put some lore beacons in for Michael. Yeah, I'm sure they're working on something at the moment. I mean, it takes time to put things in these games, so it's a bit Tokyo Drift, isn't it? Yeah. So this is Michael's space station, Brookes Abyss. So it seems a fitting place for us to organise our jump from. I'm just going to kind of hold up there. I can see dozens of players here, which is lovely to see. So thanks everybody for turning up. Right. So first things first, we need to get the hyperspace destination locked in. So we are going to be jumping to here on the route. Wolf 89. So the first thing you need to do, commanders, and this is important, okay, the way this works is lock the hyperspace destination in, but don't jump, okay? Please don't jump, okay, because it will screw everything up. So lock the hyperspace destination in. Wolf 89 should be not far away. There it is. Okay, it's one jump, hopefully, for everybody. Okay, it's 12 light years away, so everybody should be able to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to orientate our ships towards Wolf 89, which is, from my perspective, is up there. Okay, we're going to fly in that direction. Okay, and we're going to fly at about 100 meters per second. Do not go to full throttle, okay? Do not, I repeat, do not go to full throttle. So on your speed dial, where is my speed? Down there. Okay, I'm going to set speed to 100 meters per second. Okay, which is about there. There we go. Oh, 101. Come on, really? Down a bit. Can I get to 100? There we go. Look. Okay, so I'm flying at 100 meters per second. So for those of you who are instanced with me, just fall into formation. Okay, just fall into formation with me. Now we're going to have to play a little bit of instancing roulette. Now the way this works is, if you are in the private group with me, Drew Wagar, and you are in my instance, then you don't need to do anything. You just need to stay put. If you're in the private group, again, you're not in my instance, then see if you can find somebody who is in my instance and wing up with them using the in-game tools. Okay, what this will do is if you wing up them and you jump out into Supercruise and jump back again, you should instance with us. Okay, that's the way this usually works. All the other ships try and keep information. For those of you who can see me, can you keep an eye on the chat? And what we're going to try and do is, people who can't see me, type your commander name into the chat, and we're going to try and get you instance in with us, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take Bicky73 these, for example. So the way this works, let me show you how it works. I'm going to see if I can find a commander. Let's see if I can find Bicky. I've got a couple of pending friend requests. Let me do those. There we go. Oh, this has changed as well. Right, friends. Can I see? Okay, so I can't see Commander Bicky on there at all. Cyberwolf needs instancing. Commander Han Moore. Can I see any of those names? I can see John Baker. So if you can see me, any of these names that are popping up in the chat now, please wing them in if you can. And the more we can get to jump in. Commander Han Moore, Commander Shmi. See the names on here. And they update every so often as well, which is really irritating. Let's see how many we can get in the time that we have available to us. I'm going to try. Maybe I can reset this interface seems to be a bit confusing now. Benedict Shmi I can see, so I'm going to try and get Benedict Shmi. There we go. So I'm going to try and invite to team. Let's see if that works. Did that work? So we'll do this for a little bit. Okay. Is it doing anything? This is a little bit of a fiddle, I'm afraid. So, okay, I've got Commander's Remus and I've got. Okay, that's looking good. Right, Dave Byrne, I've got in my team. Dave, if you are not in my instance. I'm just going to turn the voice chat. Oh, that's changed as well. There we go. All this interface. Dave Byrne, what you should be able to do is you should be able to supercruise out for a moment and then supercruise back to my location. If the other thing you need to do is you need to turn on your wing beacons so you can be seen. Where is that now? Moved everything, haven't they? Where's the wing beacon? Is it? I can't. It's not in the same place it used to be. Wing beacons are now. Wing beacons are now automatic. Okay, that's why. That's why it's not an option. Okay, so Dave, once jump out and jump back in. I'll see if I can do a few others as well. Once you've got into my instance, you can drop the wing and then go and get some other players. So the idea being that we bring as many people in as possible into the same part of the game. Cyberdarmy, can I see you? I can't see your name on my list. I can see John Baker. I'm going to try inviting him to the team. There we go. There's John Baker. I know John. Urban Sparks I know as well. Let's try that. See if that works. So I've invited some. And so anybody who is in my instance, please invite others into your wing so that we can get as many ships in. While that's going on, hopefully the fleet is slowly starting to build up. So let's zoom out. Oh, I just marked up my speed there, I think. There we go, let's do that. There we go, I'm just going to back away. We should hopefully have a whole bunch of ships. So this, as you can see, the ships are already forming up. So what we want to do is get as many ships in this instance as possible, and then we're going to do the simultaneous jump out with all the ships. So you can see a whole bunch of ships are here, which is great. We just want as many as possible. Yeah, it's Drew Wagar's private group. We're heading away from Freeholm Station, as you can see, at low speed at the moment. The ships are building up, which is great. We are in the Artemis system, not far from the Freeholm Station. So I'm just going to pan away for a moment so you can kind of get a feel for that. The more ships we can get in the instance, the better, because the effect is better. Try not to ram each other. Oh, that's looking very close. Try and fly in a nice straight line. In order to be in this instance on stream, you'll need to be in Horizons Live mode. Okay. So if you want to try and get in with us in this mode, it's Horizons Live, not Odyssey. I don't actually have Odyssey on this account, I'm afraid, so that's why I'm using Horizons. We've got a stack load of ships here actually. If you're in a different instance and you end up in an instance with a lot of ships, I suggest maybe you stay there, because it's the fun to do it. The fun thing is to do this with lots of other people in lots of other ships. So that's the way to do it. Okay. Dave and John, Frode is here as well. So if you guys are able to jump out and jump into Supercruise, you should do that. Once you're in my instance, can you please drop your wing? That gives me space to bring other people back in as well. We'll do as many as well. So it looks like John may be here. I can see on the scanner loads and loads and loads of ships, which is really, really good. Keep doing this. I've got a space now, so let's who have I got? I've got Commander Judge Raven. Let's see if I can find him. I've got Commander Top Shot. I know some of these names. This is good. I can't see Judge Raven, there we are, I can see you. So let's invite you to the team, see if it works. Maybe throttle down. Okay, I'll throttle down. Okay, let's reset the speed to 50 meters per second. Oh, sorry about that, probably abruptly slowed down there. Set your speed to 50 meters per second. See how we can go there. I've got Judge Raven. There we go. So apologies for the sudden breaking. It's the live version that I'm in. You can obviously play in any version that you like, but feel free to. It's like my point defense cannons are having some fun. So yeah, so we're setting our speed to 50 or 51. If you're wanting to instance with me, this is Horizons Live, ED8 version 4. Okay, do not engage your hyperspace drive as yet. Okay, commanders, I'm just looking at the time. How are we doing? We've got a couple of more minutes left. Okay, so keep trying to get yourself into the instance. Once you're in an instance and you can see me, then drop your wing and try and invite other people in. We do have a lot of ships here, which is excellent news. So it's going to be a good jump. Let's just have a look. There's a bunch of fireworks going off. I think there are a lot of ships here. All to celebrate Michael Brookes. This looks amazing. Well done, guys. So we have a lot of ships all flying around, setting off fireworks in celebration. So again, this is players from all over the world. We've had dozens, literally dozens and dozens of countries represented. All spacecraft being flown by actual real people from all over the world tonight in Elite Dangerous to celebrate the legacy of Michael Brookes, all the contributions and all the amazing stuff that he made in the Elite Dangerous game. There are literally dozens of starships here with us. The nature of the game doesn't allow all of the players to be in the same place all at the same time, unfortunately, but it will still be a memorable hyperspace jump. So people are setting off in-game fireworks, which is really cool to see. I love it. Setting off my own point defense cannons because the ship thinks I'm under attack, but never mind. Yeah, the instancing, I'm afraid, is a bit of a dark art. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because it's just one of those things that it's kind of in the lap of the gods. Depends on where you are, how fast your network is, which group you're in, and which phase of the month it is. Where the moon is, whether there's meteorites in space. Who knows what's going on? But we're getting quite a lot of ships in, which is great. Okay, it looks like system authorities are on the way. Be careful. Looks like we've got one person who's been tagged as a hostile player. So we should jump before the system authorities turn up. That might be a problem. We've got about 4 minutes before we can possibly jump. I'm going to set the jump timer to in-game clock. Okay, so somebody has been marked as hostile there. I don't know if that's an actual. This could be interesting. I'm not quite sure what the game's going to do with us now. The automated response. Well, I don't think we're in the fire zone of the station, so we'll have to wait and see what we've got. We've got some dramatic music playing as well. So let's accelerate to. We'll stick at 51. I think we'll be okay. Cyberdarmy needs a wing. Let's see if I can get Cyberdarmy in. Who else have we got off? I've got a couple of friend requests there. Let's do that. So we're going to have to make a move in a minute, otherwise. Oh, let's Commander Alexia. Let's try that. So my ship thinks I'm under attack. So. Not quite sure what's going on. I think maybe it's the fireworks. Commander Graham Seal. Can I see Graham Seal? I can't see Graham Seal on the list, I'm afraid. No, he's not there. I can see Commander Bicky. There we go. I know Commander Bicky. So let's try that. Oh, they're already in a group. Commander Wintermute is here. There are a lot of people trying to get into the group, which is fantastic. I mean, thanks very much, guys. Right, we're going to call time on it. I'm going to set the jump timer to. And now we have actually got some actual fighting going on by the sound of it. I think some NPCs have shown up, and we've got one of our commanders is tagged as hostile. I passed your name, Cyber, didn't I? Sorry, let me see if I can find that again. I've got Cyber Boff. Cyber. Up top, you missed me. No. It's very confusing. There are a lot of people here. Well, it seems about to be a bit more of a busy hyperspace jump. Oh, why has my ship suddenly gone into reverse thrust? No, I don't want to charge the frame shift drive. Why has my ship gone into reverse? I must have hit a button. I've hit something. I've got my reverse system. Hang on a minute. Let me go. Sorry about this. I've hit a button, and I don't know what the control is for it. Where would that be? Where's flight thrust? What have I hit? Flight throttle? Throttle axis. R, there it is. I must have hit the R key accidentally. Right, sorry about that. There we go. Right, I'm going to set my forward speed. Sorry guys, if you can form up on me again. I'm going to travel at 50. There we go. Right, let's get the fleet organised, and then we're going to organise the jump. Before we get into any more trouble with the system authorities, because we seem to have started a battle here, which is good. Right, let's get all the ships into something approaching a formation while the dramatic music plays in the background, because the system authorities have taken taken objection to us being here. So the NPCs are trying to spoil the surprise, which is slightly annoying, but there we go. Anyway, let's get into formation. Right, we are going to jump on cue. So the time is now 5 minutes. We're going to jump exactly on your HUD, okay, 21:10. So when the clock on your screen gets to 21:10, I want you to throttle up. Now what I want you to do is I want you to charge your hyperspace drives. Do not throttle up. I repeat, do not throttle up. Okay, charge your frameshift drive, but do not throttle up. I want you to throttle up at 21:10 exactly on your HUD. Okay, don't worry about what's on the stream because you'll miss things. 21:10 on your HUD, throttle up. But charge your hyperspace drive now, but do not throttle up until 21:10. All right, that's the way this works. And in the meantime, I'm going to play a piece of music. We always jump to a hyperspace tune. Now, Michael Brookes effectively chose this song. And I'm going to mute my Elite Dangerous music for a moment because it's playing some stuff. And I'm going to play a piece of music that Michael Brookes actually liked. Now, I do very dodgy MIDI renditions of music, and I've tried my best to capture this. This is a piece of music called Apocalyptica Farewell, which seems an appropriate piece of music to play for Michael Brookes. Make sure my frameshift drive is charged. Here we go. So everybody in my instance, please form up on my wing. And there are literally dozens of commanders in this instance, all here for Michael Brookes in Elite Dangerous in the Artemis system, heading away from Freeholm Station. Thank you all ever so much for turning up. Appreciate all the efforts you've made to get here. Thanks for tagging along. Thanks for listening to me talking about all this. And obviously, huge sympathies to Michael's family, but our sincere appreciation to Michael Brookes himself for everything that he did for us in creating this playground where we've had years of fun, literally years of fun, millions of players across the world enjoying this game, exploring the mysteries, fighting, exploding, trading, exploring, doing stuff in the game. This one's for you, Michael. Thank you very much. Again, when the counter on your HUD reaches 21:10, full throttle, and everybody should hyperspace simultaneously, or as close as we can make it. 7, Commander.
Fuel scope disengaged.
Thank you for joining me, Commanders. Thank you to Michael Brookes for all his contributions to Elite Dangerous. Very much appreciated by the whole Elite Dangerous community, I'm sure. Great sympathies to Michael's family, and hope we've given him a fitting tribute from all the players that he touched with the amazing work that he provided. Signing off.